everybody? First video of the year for the new season of the Goatiest Dynasty. Here to kick it off here today. No clue what the fuck I'm gonna talk about, but there is a lot of stuff in general to talk about when it comes to this league. Um, but you know, there's let's start off with the fact that let's just talk about the current state of the league. So current state of the league, we got rolling Mahomes in first, Pink Floyd in second, bunch of other teams at 2-1, two teams at 1-2, and three teams at 0-3. In regards to just everything happening with the league at the moment, I think that there's a clear top and bottom that's forming here already. You obviously have J. Roy, Corey, who in my opinion have probably the two strongest teams. And then I would say like Chris and maybe Rough Riders are like my probably top four most likely to make playoffs. Then you have me, Mike Aarons, Allied Andy, and Mega Weenie Mites probably all bringing up the bottom, just all depending on where people end up at the end of the year. And then you got this little middle area, which is Drake and Bake, Cody, Dave, and Pink Floyd, who I think are probably going to be all fighting for those 5 and 6 seed playoff spots. So far, Pink Floyd's gotten off to a hot start, so you know he could just prove me a liar. Just stay strong the whole way throughout. Justin Fields is actually went from like a complete non-asset for him to actually being like startable if he had to. So you know that's pretty big for him. I mean, he's got Jane Daniels anyway, and I think he's got Aaron Rodgers as his other quarterback. But like the rest of his team is pretty solid. If Tua comes back, he'll be looking pretty good. Um, One thing that stands out immediately when was doing all the sheet updating and looking at everyone's um, points for, points against, and stuff like that is Mike Aarons. We joke around that you know his team might have to play better defense, but it is absolutely absurd that he's at 514 points against in this league. If you look at everyone else, he's literally almost a full 100 above everybody else. And above probably the second to last person, he's 80 points above. On average, he's like 120 points above every other team, which is just absolutely absurd in 3 weeks. I forget who he's played. Who's he played? He's played. Yeah, J. Roy. Not surprising. The big week for Dave, and then Rough Riders. Yeah, that's a tough top 3 weeks. And that would explain it, but that just hilariously unfortunate, to be honest, for him. Um, I guess the next thing we could talk about is just like probably what is the most important thing that's been going on in the league, which is trades. Um, you know, in the first 3 weeks of the trades here, or first 3 weeks of the season, I think that we've had more trades um, in this first 3 weeks than I think we probably had the entire season, possibly last year. I don't know if that's 100% true. More just in the regular season is what I mean, but like there was a lot of trades. I mean, started off, we'll talk about Corey's trades since his are probably the biggest trades that have happened in the league. So the first trade would be between me and Corey for CD Lamb. My thought process behind that whole trade is very even trade. 3 firsts for CD Lamb this year. For me, I just knew with my current quarterback situation, with JJ getting hurt in the preseason, I just knew it was going to be really, really hard to end up competing this year without a second quarterback. I got Penix in the wings, but like he's very dependent on whatever ends up happening with Kurt. And Trevor Lawrence is just straight S. So yeah, I basically knew that I was gonna have to start a rebuild at some point. And in my opinion, I think CeeDee Lamb's value probably won't go any higher than what it currently is. He's coming off like a 1,700 yard season. Um, the Cowboys really didn't add anything this year, and you just got to imagine that they got to get him a second. They got to get Dak and everyone a second weapon next year, and it's probably going to come through the draft because they are broke as fuck and they can't pay anyone. But they need to get. They just paid this man 60 mil a year. They just paid CD 35 mil a year. Like the only way they're building on this team ever at this point is through the draft. They're broke as fuck. Um, but good trade for both sides. I basically was putting off a. I was in denial about putting off a rebuild until I just thought about it a little bit more and looked at how unfortunate JJ getting hurt was. Um, Corey, meanwhile, had so many fucking picks. If he had actually taken all those picks into the next year, like his team actually would have been fucking like crazy deep with the roster that he has and 4 first round picks. Um, Instead, he decided that he has the depth that he already needs to make a run. So we made a trade. The second trade is him stacking Dak with Lamb. Dak and Lamb were the number one overall QB and wide receiver, I think, through like the last like 8 weeks or something like that of the season last year. So it's obviously both just got paid this offseason, so that connection's not going anywhere. It's a good move by Corey to be able to get that. I think he probably got Dak for a little cheap in my mind. I think Dak was like QB 2 last year, maybe. I think he was QB 2. And just had a 30-point week. He's actually leading the league in passing yards already this year after week 3, even after like a relatively slow start for him. But Baker Mayfield, who I think Corey probably did a pretty good job of selling high on, um, because I love Mayfield. Mayfield's my boy. And I think that with the offense that they got going on there, I think he will do well. He'll be there for at least a few more years. I gotta imagine. If not, somebody else will pay the man. He's proven that he has skill at this point. Um, but I think it was like Mayfield in a third or something like that, or Mayfield in a second for Dak. I don't remember 100% off the top of my head. Let's see. Trades Corey. Yeah, Mayfield in a second for Dak. Which is good trade for Andy too. I mean, Andy's in need of somewhat of a rebuild himself, so just acquiring some more draft picks and quarterback that will get him basically there. He could sell high on Dak. Let's see, what is Andy's draft picks looking like? First, second, 2/3, 2 firsts, 2 seconds. So yeah, he's got the draft capital to start up a rebuild. So looking pretty good for him. I kind of forget who's on his team. Let's see. Oh, he's got Allen. I mean, obviously great. Debo. He got Baker, O'Dunes, love O'Dunes, Gibbs. Yeah, so he's got a nice little core there. Within 2 years, he can build that up with some draft capital. Um, let's see. The last trade that Corey made was the second swap that he made with Mike Aaron's. Uh, just basically, I think your team sucks kind of trade. Um, that's basically what that trade says to me. I believe he traded my set. Yeah, so Mike Aaron's gets my second of 2026, so a season out, and Corey gets Mike Aaron's second 2 years out. I mean, I think Mike, like, despite everything, he's gotten unlucky. He's got some good young pieces. Maybe, I mean, Caleb's looking pretty rough right now. Um, but ultimately, this is Corey's just basically saying, yeah, like I want I want your draft pick, not my draft pick. That's what that looks like to me. Let me see what he's got for draft capital. So yeah, he's got Oh, that's right. I gotta get to another trade he did later on, but first round, second, first, second. Okay, so four, three, so 7 picks in the top 2 rounds of the next 2 years. Anyone who's like generally rebuilding, I think that's like pretty much really where you want to be. Maybe at minimum, depending on what your team looks like. He did a good job of kind of grabbing MHJ and uh, Caleb in this past draft. So who knows? Maybe he will end up doing. Maybe he'll end up making a move to move up again. Who knows? But as of now, he sold. The next trade would be that him and Notario. So he sold away Pacheco, which is, I mean, I think it was Pacheco and a third plus a first and a second, I believe. Let's see. I'll pull it up again. View all trades like Aaron's. Yeah. So 2027 Notario first, 2026 Notario second for Pacheco, and a third from Cody this year. I mean, very fair trade in my opinion. I definitely think it's a good time. I think what Natera is doing is building up for the playoffs. It seems like he's trying to compete this year. I also think it's just a great time to buy low on Pacheco. So I mean, I can't imagine that he's going to be at a lower value next year than what he is this year. But I do believe this is a contract year for him. So it's gonna say a lot what ends up happening in the offseason, but I got to assume that probably the Chiefs are going to re-sign him. What's behind him is basically what we're seeing now, which is Steele, P. Ryan. They're freaking shaking the cobwebs on Kareem Hunt, so that just shows you that they're fucking ass at that position if they're shaking the cobwebs on Kareem Hunt. So I think that they'll probably re-sign Pacheco. So I like the little buy low there. Not to mention I appreciate Pacheco's game. Hard runner. He's developed into the good passing option too. Um, so again, I'm just gonna keep going through all the trades here. Me and Andy. Andy was I don't know if he meant to do this and then I'm not sure what happened 100% with him here. But when I was originally looking to sell, I'm trying to go for 101 this year. So for me, I need to end up selling out, parts of my team to lower my max points for. So for me, unloading Singletary, who's a great option this year, I think, he's definitely going to get touchdowns. He's pretty much going to be the lone back until further notice. Tyrone is, Tyrone Tracy, Andy also has. So I think no matter what, he's in not a bad position there, even if Singletary were to get hurt like in the next season or so. They did just pay him a contract, so he'll be the running back there for at least like 2 years. And I think if he plays pretty well this season, he's going to be pretty secure. But I traded Singletary and a third to reclaim my second and a fourth. Um, so Andy gets his RB2, but then the next week he basically fire sailed. So selling Devonte Adams, Dak, and which I can respect. I can respect both moves. But now he has Singletary, that will push his points for or his max points for forward. So maybe he's not just going for the 101. Maybe he's going more for like a just early round one with the option to have a good running back in the next year. Um, which I'm assuming is probably what's happening there. Meanwhile, I get my most likely low second round pick, so like 201, 202, 203, something like that, just for my rebuild. But pretty good on both sides, but I was a little surprised that Andy sold the week after he traded with me. Um, what else we got? Cody versus Dave trade. Okay, yeah, this is a pretty interesting one. Let's see. Cody and Dave. So, I like this trade on both sides. It's kind of a long-term trade. Cody gets a little younger with Leggett, which he could see immediate impact with. I love Leggett, not just because I think he's a good player, but also because he's the funniest dude in the league. But I thought Leggett was an absolute monster at USC, the South Carolina one. But so I like that for Cody. He's got McConkey, he's got Leggett as his like young sort of wide receiver core. We'll see what ends up happening with that. He gets a rebuilding piece of a 2027 first in 2 years, which is probably something Cody's gonna need anyway because his dinosaur-like team will die in the next like year or so. We'll see how well or what he decides to do really, because I do think that he does have a chance to make playoffs this year. Like I said, those like four, Pink Floyd, him, Materio, and Dave are all going to be kind of vying for those last two spots, and two of them are going to get in, two of them are not. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. If he decides that he doesn't want to go for the playoffs and he wants to sell, I think it will probably be largely dependent on what he ends up hearing about CMC or Cooper Kupp. Because if he gets both of them back, I don't really see, as long as he can survive to the play and make playoffs, like those two are just going to be absolute monsters. Coming off being like weeks and weeks of rest, as long as they can stay healthy, I guess I should caveat that. Meanwhile, Dave picks up his fifth 2026 first. He literally almost unironically owns half of the 2026 first round draft. Which for his team is just bananas. I mean, there's not much I can say about this team other than the fact that it's gonna be a problem. Like Kyler Murray, Drake London, Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice is a great core. Dalton Kincaid. I mean, I was a lot higher on him. He's not having the start to the season that we all thought he might. I like Brock Purdy. I think he's got to get paid by the 49ers, right? I mean, you got to think. And he snatched JSN in front of me in the startup draft. And that's just like, all players who are probably like 2 years. I think Drake's 3 years, 2 years, 2 years, 1 year. Or this might be 1 year, 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. No. 2 years. I mean, no. I think they're all 1 year. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. Which is crazy. So he's got an insanely young core. He's got Spears in the league. He's got better than Pollard, but not true to the current point as we've seen. But I mean, just look at this team with 5 first-round draft picks in 2026. I mean, just kind of crazy, especially if Arch ends up coming out. But I mean, he can do whatever he wants. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, so he's got 6 firsts and 3 seconds in the next 2 years. 9 players in the top 2 rounds coming to this already stacked young team in the next 2 years, assuming he doesn't do any selling. I'm assuming that he probably will do something of that sort. I mean, it's great having a million picks like that, but you can always do like what Corey did and buy a stud. He's also got the depth to make pretty much any trade he wants in this league. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm sure he's on the slow play there. What else do we got? J-Roy. Terry says CMC ruled out for 2 more months. Perfect. Right in time for playoffs, baby. He ain't going to Germany for nothing. But Yeah, CMC. We'll see what happens. Um, I got him in redraft, so we'll. He said he had a setback. Yeah, his setback was going to Germany. I think that I think that's why his setback was going to Germany. Um, in the middle of the season. I think he's fucked. I mean, when you hear that shit, you just gotta think he's fucked. He's fucked for this year. 101, baby. Gotta love it. Should have took Brees. But yeah. Wait, does somebody actually have Jordan Mason in this league? I forget who has him. Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's the one who's gaining all the CMC touches. What's he got? So he's James Cook, Brees Hall. He's not even okay. He's got Jordan Mason as his number one flex. Okay, that's fun. Must be nice. Um, okay. So yeah, back to the I think the last really important trade here, which is J Roy and Andy, which is 2026 first. I think it was J Roy's first for Devonte Adams. Let's see. J Roy. Yeah, J Roy's 2026 first, which is basically a second. uh, for Devonte, who's not getting any younger, but is still a stud. We'll see if Gardner Minshew can make it happen. I think he had a yeah. I mean, you can't argue with this. I mean, basically, I don't know if 10 points is really gonna make weekly is gonna make. Oh, wait, hold on. 9 minutes ago, Devontae Adams added to injury report. Let's see what's going on here. Wasn't listening. His injury sounds like he's got a hamstring named Gardner Minshew that's acting up. And he said he's sitting out the rest of the season. But other than that, good trade for J. Roy, and he's clearly all in this year. Picks up what is essentially like a depth piece if he ends up getting any injuries. But I don't know what does his running back room look like? He's benching A Rich this year this this week. He's playing Derek Carr over A Rich. Say it ain't so. You hate to see it. But that's just fucking funny. um, but yeah, no, he picks up a great piece there. I think Devontae will still be good this year. Um, and yeah, he's all in. We'll end up seeing what happens, but the league is looking pretty juicy so far. The top two teams in my opinion are definitely J Roy and Corey. I think Pink Floyd has a good team, especially if CMC doesn't come back. He's just got like a really, really good number one flex. Then he basically he has good enough quarterbacks and he just needs enough people to fill in for that last flex spot, which I think he probably has. So he definitely could end up being like a fringe playoff, if not like mid playoff team. Um, but yeah, I think that's a lot of what's going on in the league at the moment. We'll end up seeing what ends up happening in the next couple weeks. I think part of what I was going to do at the end here is talk about the matchups, which is the matchups to look at are Drakenbake and Brockness. This is, like I said, two teams who, in my opinion, are probably going to be fighting for somewhere between that 4, 5, 6 playoff spot. And this is kind of a little bit of a playoff preview. They're both projected within 2 points of each other, and it's going to be a good fight out there. Um, then you got Corey and Rough Riders, who this is like basically a potential playoff preview. Let's see what Corey's doing. Prescott, Williams, Robinson, Ridley Lamb, Goddard. He's got Laporta in his his flex spot. He's not even starting a second quarterback. Okay. I mean, we're not sure what's going to happen with Jordan Love. He could sit out one more week. But Minshew or Jordan Love, we'll see what happens. But he's got good options, and he's already projected 20 points higher. But you never know what ends up happening with these things. Only takes like one or two bad underperformances. Like, Dak and the Cowboys are facing the Giants tonight, so if he doesn't come out of that with like, I don't know, like 40 points or something like that, his projections are probably going to be lower, right? 18. Yeah, well, not really. But I think, like, if they get shut down somehow by the Giants, if I'm the Giants, I'm just doubling CD the entire game. Like, basically make the Cowboys have Jake Ferguson and Tolbert. Rico Dowdle beat you. Don't let CD beat you. That's all you got to do as the Giants. The Cowboys have a heinous defense at the moment. So just keep the game close and triple CD if you have to. So we'll see if they're smart enough to do that. But yeah, that's mostly what we were going to talk about with the league. Nice little update video. And let's see. I was gonna do a Thursday night betting preview. Oh yeah, I guess I should talk about that. Yeah, so I'm trying to revive the weekly betting. I've explained it as best as I can in the chat, but basically I'm probably gonna be just fronting the money. It's not gonna be a lot of money, like $1 to $5 weekly. I'll show you guys over here. Not this guy. I want this guy. And so I put this guy up here, which is the weekly betting sheet. As of now, we have 4 bets. I'll add mine in here, which is Texans -3 for -200. Yeah, so as of now, I'll basically be doing this every week. Hopefully, a lot of people end up participating because it'll be a lot more fun, I think, just in general that way. Hopefully, we'll make some money in the long run. We'll see what happens. But basically, I'll be putting this through probably Saturday night, Sunday morning at the absolute latest. Most of the time, I'm going to try to put it through Saturday night so I don't forget / don't run out of time on like Sundays or something like that. But yeah, it'll be fun just to, bet with the squad. And yeah, I think that, we're just trying to revive it. So hopefully people decide that they want to play. There's no risk involved for basically anyone here. So feel free to throw out a leg that you like for the parlay, and let's ring it up. But I think besides that, I think that's everything for the most part. Like I said, I was gonna do a betting preview, so let's pull up the game here on my phone. Let's see, what do we got? Dallas -5, Giants +5. Let's see, TV scores. All right. Passing props, let's see. Dak. How many Dak touchdowns? They're anticipating -175 for 2 Dak touchdowns. I mean, the Giants ended up holding the Browns, who are just cheeks. Deshaun Watson is literally the worst QBR in the league besides Bryce Young. He's literally second to Bryce Young. If that's all you need to know. Guy is fucking ass. I wouldn't even doubt if by the end of this week, if they are horrible again, like they just end up putting Jameson, because I literally saw an interview with him today that was like, yeah, I'm not gonna run the ball more. I'm not a running back, which was like literally half the reason you pay the guy, because he clearly can't fucking throw anymore. So I just kind of thought that was ironic and funny. But Daniel Jones, 2 TDs. What do we got for 2 TDs for Devin Singletary? Let's see. They don't even have rushing touchdowns. Oh, I guess that's just the rushing props. TD scores. 2 TDs plus 600 for Devin Singletary. Basically, my 2 long shots that I like for this game are first touchdown score, Malik Neighbors plus 800, or 2+ TDs for Devin Singletary plus 600. Because the Cowboys defense is horrendous. And I think that if the Giants get the ball early, I think that they do a good job of at least like getting the ball to Neighbors. And, he's due for like a nice little catch and run. I could see it happening this week versus Dallas because I think after they've just been gashed and gashed over the last like 3 weeks, I think they're giving up almost 200 rushing yards a game. I think that they stack the box a little more, and I could see the passing lanes opening up for Danny Derps. But yeah, Malik's so good it doesn't fucking matter. Just throw 18 targets his way a game, and you'll probably win the game. So, but first TD for him, Devin Singletary too, and could be a little bit of a shootout, but yeah, I think the Cowboys are still gonna win this game by like 2 touchdowns. But yeah, that's the video. So yeah, we'll do this again in probably like another 3 weeks and give a little update. Maybe we'll have some more trades. Maybe we won't. But I think we'll have a much clearer picture of what the playoff picture and what the bottom of the league is going to look like at that time. So yeah, have a good night, everyone, and enjoy Thursday Night Football.